In the history of the Roman Empire, there's a story whispered, not of a great victory but of a profound and unsettling silence. It's a story etched not in triumphant monuments, but in a void, a sudden blank space in the meticulous records of the most organised military machine the world had ever known. This is the story of the 9th Legion, Legio IX Hispana, a force that was, on paper, over 5,000 of Rome's most seasoned soldiers, who, at the height of the Empire's power, seemingly vanished. One popular legend says they marched into the mist of northern Britain and were never seen again. In this telling, no final battle was recorded, no standards were recovered, no survivors returned to tell the tale. An entire legion, the iron fist of an empire, just gone. How does that happen? How does a unit with a pedigree stretching back to Julius Caesar, a legion that fought and bled on 3 continents, disappear without a trace? For centuries, this question has haunted historians, archaeologists and storytellers. We're going to unpack the clues, confront the competing theories and investigate one of history's greatest vanishing acts. This is the cold case of the lost 9th Legion. To understand the mystery, you first have to understand who these men were. The 9th was not just any legion, it was an institution with a long, brutal and decorated history. Its precise origins are complex. Scholars still debate whether the legion of the early empire was a direct continuation of Caesar's or a later version reconstituted from his veterans. What we do know is that a 9th legion was one of Julius Caesar's most reliable tools of conquest during his grueling Gallic wars in the 50s BC. They were there fighting in the mud and forests, forging an empire. Their emblem is thought to have been the bull, a symbol of strength and stubborn resilience, though there's no direct ancient evidence to prove it. But their service under Caesar also reveals a core truth. They were tough, but not invincible. The 9th's history is punctuated by moments of near disaster and harsh discipline. Ancient sources describe a mutiny at Placentia where troops, including elements of the 9th, protested their pay and endless campaigning. Caesar, a master of psychological command, confronted them directly. While the exact details are debated, he was known to use brutal discipline in his armies, including the threat or use of decimation, where every 10th soldier was executed by his comrades to restore order. It's a stark reminder that a legion was a weapon of the state, and if that weapon faltered, it would be ruthlessly reforged. After Caesar's assassination, the legion's story continued. It fought for his heir, Octavian, who would become Emperor Augustus. After the final wars of the Republic, the legion was stationed in Spain for the brutal Cantabrian Wars from 25 to 13 BC. It's widely believed this long and bloody campaign is what earned the legion its honorific title, Hispana, the Spanish Legion. Their tough reputation got them sent to other frontiers. They were stationed on the Rhine and later in Pannonia, the volatile Balkan frontier. Around 20 AD, sources suggest a detachment of the 9th was sent to North Africa to help put down a rebellion, once again proving their worth. The 9th was a versatile, mobile force sent wherever the empire's borders were under pressure. Their most famous and perhaps final chapter began in AD 43. The 9th was one of 4 legions chosen for the invasion and conquest of Britain. This was the edge of the known world, a land of damp forests, misty hills and fierce tribes. The 9th was on the front line, first helping secure the south and east from bases near modern-day Leicester, and later building a major fortress at Lindum, today's city of Lincoln. For years, they were the iron spine of the Roman occupation, pushing the frontier slowly north. But Britain would test them like never before. In AD 60 or 61, the province exploded in the terrifying rebellion led by Boudicca, Queen of the Iceni. Camulodunum, Colchester, was sacked. Londinium, London, and Verulamium, St Albans, met the same fate. The 9th Legion, commanded by Quintus Petilius Cerialis, was the closest major unit. Cerialis raced to intercept the rebel army with a force of around 2,000 infantry and some cavalry. The result was a catastrophe. The Roman force was ambushed and overwhelmed. The infantry was almost entirely wiped out. The historian Tacitus paints a grim picture of the 9th being cut to pieces, though Cerealis himself escaped with his cavalry. It was a devastating defeat that became known as the Massacre of the 9th. Yet, the 9th survived. The legion wasn't completely destroyed and was rebuilt with fresh recruits, likely from Germany. A decade later, the same Cerealis who led them to disaster returned as governor. He once again took command of the rebuilt 9th and led them north against the powerful Brigantes tribe. Around AD 71, the legion established the great fortress that would become its final home, Eboracum, the city we now call York. From there, the 9th spent decades policing the northern frontier, even pushing deep into modern Scotland during the campaigns of Gnaeus Julius Agricola in the AD 80s. It's believed they took part in the great victory at Mons Graupius, though their participation in that specific battle isn't explicitly listed. During that campaign, their camp was nearly overrun in a surprise night attack, and they had to be rescued by Agricola himself, a sign that the 9th was a legion that lived on a knife's edge. For decades, Eboracum, York, was the 9th's domain. It was the northernmost legionary fortress in the Roman Empire, a bastion of power staring into the unconquered lands of Caledonia. And it's from here that we get our last, tantalisingly concrete piece of evidence. In 1864, during construction work, a stone fragment was unearthed. It was part of a monumental inscription from a gateway of the old Roman fortress, commemorating its rebuilding by the 9th Legion Hispana. The text is filled with the official titles of the Emperor Trajan, Conqueror of Germany, Conqueror of Dacia, and so on. For historians, this list of titles is like a timestamp. Based on when Trajan received these honours, the inscription can be dated with high confidence to around the year AD 108. This stone slab is the last widely accepted, securely dated record of the 9th Legion in Britain, and it has become one of the most famous artefacts in Roman history because after this point the signal goes dead. The 9th Legion simply fades from the record. The silence is deafening. A few years later, around AD 122, another legion, Legio 6 Victrix, arrives in York and takes over the fortress the 9th had built. There's no record of a formal handover or where the 9th went. Around the same time, Emperor Hadrian orders the construction of his famous wall, a massive project involving units from all over Britain. Yet, in all the archaeological evidence from the wall's construction, the name of the 9th Legion is conspicuously absent. Later in the 2nd century, when Roman officials compiled lists of all active legions for military records and monuments, Legio 9 Hispana is not on them. Sometime between that stone inscription in York in AD 108 and these later lists, an entire legion had ceased to exist. So, where did they go? The oldest and most dramatic theory is that the 9th Legion marched north from York one last time and was utterly destroyed in battle. This is the narrative that has captured the public imagination for over a century, famously popularised by the historian Theodore Mommsen and later immortalised in Rosemary Sutcliffe's novel The Eagle of the Ninth. The story is cinematic. An uprising occurs among the tribes of northern Britain. The 9th is dispatched to crush it. They march deep into the mists and mountains of Caledonia, modern Scotland, and are ambushed and annihilated. 5,000 men wiped out to the last. This theory seems to explain a lot. It would account for the sudden silence and the arrival of the 6th Legion as a necessary replacement. Some have even speculated it's the reason for Hadrian's Wall, not a statement of power but a defensive line born of fear to prevent such a disaster from happening again. The idea that Roman authorities, embarrassed by the defeat, simply suppressed the news is plausible. The problem with this epic tale, a complete lack of hard evidence. It's a theory built almost entirely on an absence of information. Archaeologists have never found the site of this supposed battle. There are no mass graves of Roman soldiers from this period in the north. The legion's eagle standard has never been found. A bronze eagle discovered at Silchester in 1866 was once thought to be it, but is now believed to have been part of a statue. The annihilation theory is a powerful story, but without a body, without a crime scene, it remains just that, a story. As the annihilation theory started to show cracks, a more boring, but perhaps more realistic explanation gained ground. What if the ninth wasn't destroyed in Britain at all? What if they were just transferred? This theory is built on a handful of archaeological finds from the Roman fortress of Novio-Margus, modern-day Nijmegen, in the Netherlands. Excavations there have unearthed tiles stamped with the ninth's insignia, and even a pendant belonging to one of its soldiers. For a time, it was thought these items dated to around AD 120, which would prove the Legion couldn't have been destroyed in Scotland years earlier. The case seemed closed, the Legion wasn't lost, just moved. However, this is far from a silver bullet. The big problem is dating. More recent analysis suggests these tiles may actually date to the AD 80s, when we know detachments of the 9th were temporarily sent from Britain to the continent. If the finds are from this earlier period, they tell us nothing about what happened after AD 108. Another piece of evidence involves records of the Legion's senior officers, some of whom went on to have successful careers after their time with the 9th, but this only proves the Legion wasn't destroyed before these specific men completed their service. It doesn't tell us what happened to the unit after they left. The transfer theory swaps one mystery for another, opening a new possibility without closing the case. With both the Britain and Rhine theories having major flaws, a third idea emerged, looking to a different part of the Roman world, the volatile eastern frontier. This theory suggests the 9th left Britain not for the Netherlands, but for the Middle East, where it was destroyed in one of the major wars of the 2nd century. Two main scenarios are proposed. The first is that the 9th was sent to Judea to help suppress the bloody Bar Kokhba revolt from AD 132 to 136. This was a brutal war with catastrophic Roman casualties. It's a leading hypothesis that another legion, the 22nd Deotariana, was wiped out in this conflict, and some suggest the 9th may have been a second legion lost in the fighting. The second possibility places their end a few decades later in Armenia. In AD 161, the Parthian Empire invaded, and the historian Cassius Dio states that they annihilated an entire Roman legion. Crucially, he doesn't name which one. For a few historians, the missing 9th is a possible candidate for this unnamed unit. Like the other theories, the Eastern Frontier hypothesis is built on speculation. Its main strength is that it accounts for the Legion's disappearance in known historical conflicts where legions were destroyed. But its greatest weakness is, again, a total lack of direct physical evidence. Roman legions almost always left a material footprint. Inscriptions, tombstones, tile stamps. To date, not a single piece of archaeological evidence has ever been found that definitively places Legio Hispana in Judea or anywhere else in the East. It's an educated guess, an attempt to fill one historical vacuum with another. So, after centuries of debate, where are we? We have a ghost, a legion with a proud, violent history that simply dissolves into silence after AD 108. We have the romantic theory of a last stand in Scotland, a story that resonates but has no archaeological proof. We have the scholarly counter-theory of a mundane transfer to the Rhine, supported by a few ambiguous tile stamps, and we have speculative theories of a forgotten end in the fiery wars of the East, a plausible but entirely unproven scenario. Perhaps the truth is less dramatic. Some historians suggest the Legion may have just faded away. After suffering heavy losses in unrecorded conflicts, the survivors could have been drafted into other units, or the Legion might have been disbanded for administrative reasons, its men parcelled out across the army. It's possible its disappearance wasn't a single event at all, but a gradual dissolution that went unrecorded. In the end, that is the heart of the enigma. The Roman Empire was a state obsessed with records and legacy, yet for one of its famous legions, the official record is silence. There's no evidence of an official condemnation, a damnatio memoriae. It seems they were simply omitted, forgotten by the imperial bureaucracy. This absence has created a space where myth can flourish. The Ninth Legion wasn't just lost to the mists of Caledonia, it was lost to the fog of history itself, leaving behind a cold case that will likely endure for centuries to come. What does it say about an empire when it can lose thousands of its finest soldiers, and history cannot remember where or how? What do you think is the most plausible theory? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoy unravelling history's greatest unsolved mysteries, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories from the past.